How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. Ben here, joined by Michael once again to bring you Blink-182 worst to best. I was going to say legendary. Is that safe to say?
I would say so.
I mean, they're pretty legendary in the pop punk scene. Very nostalgic for people of our age or anybody about 20 to 35, who was young in the 2000s, impressionable,
Yes.
listening to all that pop punk explosion. It didn't stay very long, though, did it?
It did not.
It had a brief little moment in the sun.
A great brief moment, though. I enjoyed every second of it.
And you actually saw these guys not too long ago, didn't you?
No,
Or no, that was Green Day.
It was Green Day.
I gotcha. Yeah, easy to get those two confused.
That is fair. Both pop punk icons.
So I don't know about you, but I was looking forward to a couple of these, but then I didn't realize they have 8 albums.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually more than I would have thought. I would have thought 5, 6.
I would have
maybe?
rather they stopped at 5, and you'll find out very quickly.
Yeah. Well, why don't you go ahead then with your number 8?
All right, my number 8 is their most recent record, which is 9. First off, no Tom DeLonge, so it's already a knock against it. I love me some Tom DeLonge and his alien chasing ways. Big fan. No, but here's the thing about 9. It sounds really synthetic. It sounds overproduced. It sounds like too much Mark Hoppus. It sounds too much like they're trying to stay relevant and stay with the times instead of just making a good record. It sounds like they needed to strip things down, and they refuse to strip things down. Nothing about this feels genuine or real to me. It just sounds like old guys trying to make music and still be relevant.
Couldn't have said it better myself. My number 8 is also 9, all caps, from 2019. It's just not good at all. My note here, it just says terrible, period.
It's a hard listen.
It's sugary, glistening, overproduced. It's too loud. It's too muddy. It's like you can't even pick out what the instruments are doing.
No.
Sometimes it's just a wall of crap of sound. Blame it on my youth. It's just kind of gross when these guys are almost 50, pushing 50. They may be 50. I don't know how old they are. Late 40s, early 50s. I don't know. Mark Hoppus doesn't even sound like a human on this. He sounds like somebody who's just been auto-tuned and produced and touched up to death.
Travis Barker's drums sound like super nerfed. They don't sound like Travis Barker drums. They sound like somebody's like playing a drum machine a lot of the time.
Exactly, yeah, and it's just too produced, man. And actually, I think Travis Barker had a hand in production, which is surprising. But then again, he's always leaned a bit more into the hip-hop side and electronic side of production rather than straight rock production. Matt Skiba's vocals don't work for me on this at all.
No.
Matt Skiba, of course, formerly of Alkaline Trio, replaced Tom as the quote-unquote lead singer. Really, they've always had two, even though some have edged each other out on any given project. Songs like Dark Side, I really don't like his vocals that much. He's fine in Alkaline Trio, not one of my all-time favorite bands, but I can see the appeal. Here, though, not much to commend this album at all.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit. My number 7 is Neighborhoods from 2011, their big comeback record. It sounds a bit phoned in. It sounds like they're trying to be mature because they're significantly older than they were from their record previously. It was 8 years after the release of the self-titled. And it's a lot of the same. It seems very heavily overproduced. Tom DeLonge apparently didn't give a shit about this record because he didn't listen to mixes or anything like that. He just kind of phoned it in. It doesn't do it for me. There was not very much about this record that I found particularly enjoyable. It's better than 9, but that's really not significantly hard to do.
Yeah.
You just have to kind of show up and do it. But it's a lot of the same problems with 9 there are in Neighborhoods as well. So that's for me, my number 7.
I'm sure it won't be the first time I say it, but well, first of all, I agree wholeheartedly. My number 7 is also Neighborhoods from 2011. But I'll probably say again before the end of this video that I really feel like Tom had one foot out the door into Angels and Airwaves. And Angels and Airwaves really is kind of the spiritual successor from Blink-182 to me. Yeah. It feels like it's a natural progression that has evolved a bit, whereas this comeback record and the two after really didn't evolve at all. They just try and do the same thing, they just do it worse, as they did from the early 2000s. Whereas Angels and Airwaves I actually think is a pretty cool project. Right. Albums like I Empire actually feel like almost slightly progressive pop punk. You know, it's interesting. Sorry, I'll get to my thoughts on Neighborhoods. Yeah, this was the band's comeback after that indefinite hiatus they declared in 2005. Commercially, this album actually disappointed. You would think, because a big band after a 10-year gap, or however long it was. No, it was only 6 years actually, wasn't it? Yeah, 6 or 7 year gap. It really didn't sell that well. I don't even know if it's been certified gold. Maybe it's gold. I can't remember, but it was not the big success that their previous 3 had been at that point.
Right.
And again, it just Ghost on the Dance Floor and Up All Night. I mean, they're okay, I guess, but they just don't feel like there's been any artistic evolution whatsoever since Blink-182, the self-titled album, all the way up to this. Pretty safe to fly over their last three, and I predict that's probably what you're going to say, but go ahead with your next.
Right, my next one, my number 6, is shocking. It's California.
Right.
And I really wanted this to be number 7 or 8 when I first heard it, because it was the only one of the newer ones that I had listened to previously. But at the end of the day, there were still parts of California I found relatively enjoyable. The title track, of course, No Future, Cynical, are all really enjoyable pieces of this record that I like a lot. And even though it doesn't have my man Tom DeLonge in it, they still do a pretty good job. It still is, overproduced, past your prime nonsense. But there are parts of it I can sit there and hang my hat on and go, okay, I enjoyed that. Or, okay, that was a good track. Now, the majority of the tracks are really not all that good, but there are pieces in it that you can at least take something away from.
That's fine. It's a dog barking over there. And really cool album art. I think you mentioned to me that.
I love the album art. I wish
that's...
the album was good, because then I would be able to buy it and hang the album art and be like, yeah, this is a quality record.
Yeah. My number 6 also is California from 2016. I mean, could this be the video, Mike, where we have identical lists? This seems like a band where that's possible.
It's entirely possible, but we'll see.
Yeah, so the best of the 3 newer records, but that's not high praise. This one had some moments of catchy songwriting and very energetic hooks and stuff that the other 2 new records I feel pretty much lacked entirely. Yeah, like I say, I have written here probably the best of their comeback, but that's not saying much.
No.
Yeah, the energy's higher on Neighborhoods, but it still doesn't quite reach that energetic, youthful peak of their early work. Not surprising,
because they're no longer youthful.
20 years have passed, right? These guys they're fathers now. They're getting older.
You can't talk about high school and stuff anymore.
This music no longer, I don't think, feels natural for them to write. This is the first to feature Alkaline Trio frontman Matt Skiba. I think his vocals on this, they work a little bit better this time around than they do on 9. But Bored to Death in Los Angeles, I think, are probably some pretty good tracks. California has a few highlights. But the deep cuts are just forgettable as hell, and there's a couple throwaway little skit tracks or something that are they just feel cringy now that these guys are in their 40s.
Exactly.
It's not funny anymore.
It doesn't fit. Like, it's
taking shits in swimming pools and stuff.
Is that it's a type of music that you have to be a certain age to make. And they're just not of that age, so they can't make it anymore.
In order to come across as remotely credible.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was prop punk almost isn't a genre so much as it was a point in time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because this sound isn't going to work anymore. It doesn't feel natural anymore.
It's American Pie music. Like, that's how I feel about it. It's like every movie that's like American Pie from that time period has these songs. The Sum 41s, the Green Days, Jimmy Eat World, and of course Blink.
Yeah. I almost saw them on this tour, which we now can say pretty safely probably the last time I would have had the chance. What with Tom departing and then now Mark's health issues.
Extremely sick.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, he looks it too. Have you seen him lately? He's appeared on. He did a stream or something playing bass, and he looks rough, dealing with cancer, obviously. But yeah, I knew those 3 were going to be at the bottom of both of our lists. But here's what I'm interested to see. What is your number 5, sir?
My number 5 is Cheshire Cat, or Cheshire Cat, however you may say it. The original, studio record of theirs. I mean, obviously a Buddha, but that's neither here nor there. But I mean, look, it's a good punk record. It's got, points in it I like: Carousel, Sometimes, TV, Toasted Bananas. There are some really cool tracks on here that I like that are really good, pop punk type songs. But the production is too low. It's cheaply made. It sounds cheaply made.
Oh God, yeah.
And that's okay, because it's their first record. They're not setting the world on fire. They're not the other Ford albums, which I consider to be very special, very good records.
Yeah.
So it's the 5th record, but it doesn't mean it's a bad record. It just means it's not as good as the other 4, but at the same time, it's significantly better and significantly more honest and genuine than any of the last 3 records they have made.
Despite the utter lack of production. Okay, I'm getting excited because my number 5 is Cheshire Cat as well. This might be the one where we have the exact same opinion. I don't know if that's an interesting thing or if that makes the video boring when there's no conflict.
Exactly.
We'll see. Maybe at the top we'll disagree. So yeah, this was their debut. They had Buddha, which was basically like a demo. Although, to be fair, the production between Buddha and this studio album is pretty comparable. Yeah. This sounds like a demo. I mean, these guys sound like they're 16 and 17 years old, goofing off, writing songs. It's more fun than it is good. this album, I would say, at the end of the day. Because right up front, you have Carousel and M&M's, which are like the only two complete songs on the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like fleshed out ideas.
Yeah.
Both very good. This also, I don't know if you note the original album art there.
Yeah.
Just says Blink. They actually were, that was their name until.
Right. And then some Irish fan tried to sue them, right?
It was I don't know if they did or they threatened to or they received a cease and desist or whatever. But there was already a signed band to whatever major label in the U.S. called Blink from Ireland, who I've never heard of to this day. They probably would have won.
Their claim to fame is this.
Exactly right. Yeah. So this and a couple others that we're going to talk about feature original drummer Scott Rayner, who is not a bad drummer by any means. He just had the misfortune to be replaced by Travis Barker,
who's an excellent drummer.
Yeah, I mean he does. I mean these songs are fast, they're fun. Cacophony is the one song on this record that stood out to me as them maybe trying to do something a bit more structurally ambitious, but then they just don't really have the skill or the patience or the discipline or whatever to finish it off. Strings and TV are just goofy ass songs, pretty half-assed structurally, but they're fun. I mean, this album is
enjoying themselves, throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks.
Benoit balls and all this. This album is just, it's more fun than good. But I genuinely do enjoy it. I think it's a fun record, just not one that I put on all that often, to be fair.
Now, for number 4 and up are records I would consider buying, or definitely would if given the chance. Dude Ranch is my number 4. It also has Scott Rayner.
Rayner.
Scott Rayner is the drummer for it, and this is obviously the first one where it feels like expensive production. It feels like they're really starting to find that sound that they would go on to become famous for. It has Dickless, which is a hilarious and an excellent song. It has Josie, which is another great track. It has Damn It, which is, in my mind, the first really great track from Blink-182. Damn It's an amazing staple of a track. I'm a huge fan of it. This seems like the turning point for them. This seems like where they went from shitty garage neighborhood punk band to actually guys who have a shot at doing something really special.
Yeah.
So Dude Ranch seemed like the easy number 4. I mean, the Dude Ranch and Cheshire Cat were the two where it seemed very easy to put them.
Yeah. The streak is broken. My number 4 is Take Off Your Pants and Jacket from 2001. We made it that far. These top like 3 or 4 Blink records are pretty comparable in terms of enjoyment and quality. They would never do something super ambitious musically, but they knew how to write some fun ass tunes, man. Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, great name by the way. Love the album art as well with the plane and not deep by any means, but I think it's funny.
No, it's
gets a chuckle out of me.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, the ambition of Anthem Part 2, that song, is like, wow, okay, these guys have learned a little bit over the years of playing these punk songs over and over again, and they've written something that both lyrically and structurally and tonally, the production is very nice on this, much more ambitious than anything they'd attempted up to that point. Produced by Jerry Finn and mixed by Tom Lloyd Alge. Not household names, but two of the best guys in the industry in the early 2000s. I mean, they were all over the place. Tom Lloyd Alge, he like mixed every single record between like 2000 and 2010. It feels like he's absolutely everywhere in every liner notes on all these records. I think this record particularly reflected the growing schism regarding the band popularly, where this record split the people who were like, oh, they're a punk band, and now all of a sudden they come up with something so polished and poppy and stuff. People are like, they're not a punk band, and the punk purists started to hate them at this point. And I think this was really where that split really manifested itself. Because up to this point, even though they were writing fun little tunes, they were pretty punky in their attitude. Right. You know, writing about dick lips and all these weird ass songs and having fun.
Great name for a track, and just a very good track.
Yeah, this one, in addition to Anthem Part 2, which is one of my favorites of theirs, had First Date and The Rock Show, which were singles that did some pretty decent business. But the reason why I have this at number 4 and not higher is I think the deep cuts are a little forgettable. Happy Holidays, You Bastard. What the hell was that? What the hell was that? I still have no idea what that was about. Story of a Lonely Guy and Stay Together for the Kids are some other pretty decent tracks, even though they're not my personal favorites. But definitely a cut above what they tried to do previously, even like pianos and acoustic guitars creeping up into this thing. So that's my number 4. A good record, but I think there's 3 better ones.
I would say my number 3 is the self-titled. I really, really dig this record. It's the first Blink record I had ever bought. It feels like the way they try to be mature now, or with Neighborhoods, you know, this is where they actually nailed it. They were clear. There's clearly them growing as artists and growing as people and successfully doing it and being genuine while doing it. There's a lot of really great tracks on here. I Miss You is obviously the huge one. I still don't know what you know, what is it? Something from all the spiders catching things and eating their insides.
Is that a lyric? I don't know.
Yeah, from I Miss You.
Oh, well, they were never. They're not Bob Dylan. Okay?
Yeah, no, I never understood what like catching things and eating their insides, and I never got that. Stockholm Syndrome, super hard track, really love it. Feeling This, Anesthesia. I mean, there's a lot of tracks on here that go pretty hard, but are also feel very real and a lot more serious. This is a very serious record compared to their previous stuff up to
Definitely.
this point. And I feel like, and I wish they would have stopped here because it feels like everything after this is just a cut below whatever they've made. Their first 5 records were very good, or at least awesome in a way. And this should have been it. And I really wish this was it.
Well, I couldn't agree more. We'll get to my thoughts on that in a moment. But that should have been the end, because it was the perfect swan song. You know, sort of the peak of their musicality.
We're adults now. In a way, it's them saying we're adults now.
Yeah. So my number 3 is Dude Ranch from 1997. Great album art, by the way. Hilarious. This was the band's major label debut. They'd been picked up by Universal. Cheshire Cat was released on some like local or maybe regional label with not much money put behind it or production. And you can hear that, obviously, because the production takes a big step up from Cheshire Cat to Dude Ranch. They were still real young, like teenagers, late teens, maybe probably not even early 20s. I think late teens still at this point. The production, obviously, as I said, is hugely improved, as are the vocal performances from Mark and Tom, which are noticeably pretty rough and not very confident on Cheshire Cat. They're really not confident enough to try and be serious at all. So they just kind of lean on the humor, which is fun, but they can sing when they put their minds to it. I especially like the way their voices work together when they do that, which is still not as often as they would later on Dude Ranch. The songs here are a bit more structured. It's just basically a better incarnation of what they were trying to do on the debut. Voyeur, Damn It, Waggy, Josie, these are all high energy, infectious pop punk tunes. Fast as hell, the drumming. I mean, I mean, how do you do that for a whole show? They must have been a hell of a live band when they were crazy and raucous and young. Yeah, Dick Lips and Lemmings, I thought were pretty dumb songs. I mean, it's fun.
I like Dick Lips. I really, really dig that song.
Oh, there's a great story about this. So to celebrate being signed to a major label debut, they were all getting drunk and partying, and drummer Scott Rayner celebrated by jumping off a balcony and broke both his heels. So he had to record this whole album with like broken heels, which must have been a challenge.
Especially considering how hard the drumming goes.
I know, especially the bass pedal where
it's so much
constant. Pain. So I thought that was pretty rock and roll. That's pretty cool. So that's my number 3, a good record.
My number 2, are you ready for the upset?
Go ahead.
Enema of the State is
How about
2.
that? Okay.
You open with Dumpweed, great track. I mean, first off, let's go to the album art. Janine Lindenboulder, the porn star, being on the album art is amazing. It's so punk rock. It's cool. I dig that. Dumpweed's a great opener. Aliens Exist by Tom DeLonge is great on so many levels.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, if you didn't know, Tom DeLonge is really into chasing aliens now, which I find hilarious and charming at the same time.
Yeah.
What's My Age Again, staple track. And then you get to like the 2 really huge tracks. You get to Adam's Song, which was my favorite Blink track for years. I love that song. It's so heartbreakingly sad, but it's really, really, it hits. It hits a nerve. It's very serious, and I really dig it. And then you have the Goliath that is All the Small Things, which is played on loop every rock radio station to this day.
That pays their mortgage to this day.
Reason. It is a pop punk staple, if not the greatest pop punk song maybe ever.
I'd probably agree with that. I can't think of a better one.
It is.
What's My Age Again, though? It's the only one I can. That's also Blink, though.
Yeah,
that's the only other one.
And it's on this record. Yeah. I mean, there are some really amazing, hard, heavy-hitting tracks on here. All the Small Things music video making fun of the boy bands. Like, if kids see that now, they wouldn't understand it. But like boy bands being what they were at this point, and knowing that the song, the music video is hilarious when they're doing the Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or 98 Degrees.
O-Town.
It's just great.
There were so many of those shitty ass boy bands.
There were.
God, you couldn't get away from them. There was even I think it was O-Town. There was a reality show to build a boy band. I think that was the result.
That doesn't surprise me. That's
obnoxious.
But yeah, no, the upset, Enema of the State, number 2.
That is surprising. Okay, so by process of elimination, I now know what your number 1 is. And I was so excited we might have an identical list. I think we're actually 3 spots apart on our number 1. Anyway, my number 2 is Blink-182, the self-titled from 2003. I was surprised in retrospect that this was the first appearance of this logo with the X's and the arrows and the smiley face. It'll be on screen, so you know what I'm talking about. Because I always thought that they had rode this branding for a long time. You see it on T-shirts and stuff. No, it was basically what at the time was their last record.
Right.
Was the first appearance of this sort of symbol. So a lot of things happened between Enema of the State in 1999 and this record in 2003. In those intervening 4 years, all three of the guys became fathers. They did their solo projects, and some two would pair off to do something, and a different two would pair off to do something, to varying quality. There was Boxcar Racer, Transplants, and Plus 44. I think were like some combination of those three guys, but not all three did those bands. I think Travis Barker was the common denominator there. I don't think Matt and Tom, or Mark and Tom, sorry, not Matt, were getting along too well, but they both still wanted to work with Travis, which, yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, it's very understandable.
You're not going to find a better drummer very easily. Again, Jerry Finn on production. Sounds great. This record really, really sounds good. It sounds ambitious. Obvious violence and Stockholm Syndrome. Surprisingly heavy, dark tinged cuts from Blink. Not something that they had attempted previously or would try again. But in retrospect, when I was listening to this record, for the first time in years, it must be said, I was like, you know what? This is like, the year is 2003. I think this might be like the end of pop punk.
Yeah.
You know, and like this record fits that because the genre has sort of reached its creative zenith.
Yes.
And there's no really where else to go after this.
Yes. I mean, it's grunge circa 1994.
Yeah.
Like, that's what 2003 pop punk is.
And that's why I agree with you that it should have been the end, because it was the perfect swan song to not only the band, but like the little subgenre of pop punk, I think. There wasn't a great pop punk record, in my opinion, to come out after this. I know we disagree on American Idiot.
But yeah.
Anyway, songs like I Miss You are a pretty far cry from the fart joke, upper decker humor of Cheshire Cat only 7 years ago at the time of the release of this. It's funny how quickly these guys kind of grew up. This one went 2 times platinum, so definitely like a high watermark for sales and relevancy for the band that none of the comebacks would achieve. And the Fallen interlude, I don't know if you remember that one, but it almost hints at like some Radiohead-esque stylistic ambition to this. The problem is, as much as I appreciate the effort, and it pains me to say it, I don't think these guys have the musical ability to achieve this kind of sound.
I don't either.
But I love the attempt.
There's only one Tom York for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, they just can't. The ambition of this record is so high that I don't think they have the musicality to reach it. Or Travis probably does, but the other two guys I don't think do. But they come close, and it's a great effort, and I really, really like this record. Strings, pianos, synthesizers, acoustic guitars. I mean, this is like the most ambitious record Blink. They probably could never picture themselves attempting something like this.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is definitely their deepest record on several different levels.
In retrospect, a lot of people have sort of attributed to this a bit more attention critically and like artistically than they gave it at the time. Blink, of course, still, even with the release of this record, people were still hearing all the small things and What's My Age Again and all the hits, pretty vapid, substanceless. And this really tried to be something pretty ambitious, especially the live shows were a lot more produced and choreographed and had some ambition to them, which I appreciate. But ultimately, I had to give my number one spot to something else. But go ahead with yours first.
I wanted to check. So this is before the plane crash from the mid-2000s that almost killed both Travis and Mark.
That's right. I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that this was lined up correctly. That happened in, I believe, 2008. So, okay. Well, that adds obviously to the indefinite hiatus.
Yeah.
My number one is Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. I really love this record. I love the album art. Super cool. Starts off with Anthem Part 2, which is a great start.
Yeah.
Online song, which is really weird to hear 20 years later. It sounds super dated.
Yeah.
First Date, great. Happy Holidays, You Bastard. I love it. I think I find that song hilarious.
It's so weird.
The Rock Show. The one song I don't like is Roller Coaster. I don't care for Roller Coaster. Shut Up is another track I really, really love. And then my favorite on this entire thing, my favorite Blink record is probably Stay Together for the Kids.
Yeah.
It's a great combination of Mark and Tom. And just I really just love the chorus of it. It's the whole thing. It sounds really mature, especially for this point in their careers. It sounds like something that would come out on the self-titled. So in my mind, I love Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. I think Enema of the State is very close for me.
Yeah.
And I would say that most people would agree that Enema of the State's number one. But in terms of my personal opinion, my personal favorite, it has to be this one.
It's a bit of a hot take. I don't know if you intended it that way. But...
No, I knew it would be. As soon as I made the official decision, I was like, people are going to say it should be Enema of the State. And I'm like,
yeah,
I'm going personal preference.
Including me. My number one is Enema of the State from 1999. Love the album cover. I was telling you before we started, it's funny, the Red Cross pressured these guys. The original, I'll put the original up on screen, but that Red Cross on her hat there, they said they want the band to take that off there because it's on they don't want to be associated with a porn star and a punk album. Have a little sense of humor, American
exactly.
Red Cross.
Come on, American Red Cross.
Come on. Nobody's thinking you endorsed this.
Yeah.
It's just a way to say she's a nurse. You know what I mean?
Some douchebag in Nebraska. The American Red Cross supports pornography.
I know, it's ridiculous. A little oversensitive. But you immediately know that it's fun with the title track, or not the title track, but the title of the album, which doesn't even require a glove.
No.
But she just thought it was funny, and I just love everything about the energy of this album. Yeah. I already mentioned the Red Cross thing. This record, again, produced by Jerry Finn and mixed by Tom Lord Alge, as they all are, who had just come off another punk success, working on Dookie, Green Day, mixing and producing, same two guys. Fantastic. They knew what they were doing. They could get a full sound from these little three-piece bands.
Right.
Doesn't feel empty at all. First to feature Travis Barker behind the kit after the departure of Scott Rayner. And you feel his presence immediately on songs like Dump Weed and Don't Leave Me. He's a better drummer than Scott. Scott's a good drummer. Travis is a great drummer.
Right.
I mean, it's just,
You're right. Travis is a great drummer.
Yeah, exactly. The production obviously takes a big step up here. This album to me is the Blink-182 sound encapsulated. I think this is why they have a bit of a lasting reputation, why songs like All the Small Things and What's My Age Again, both of which appear on this record, have stood the test of time and people still find them endearing. But there's also some deep cuts like Aliens Exist and Going Away to College that I thought was really good. I honestly had totally forgotten about those tracks, but it works well as an album. None of them are too long, any of these albums.
No.
I think the longest one may be 40 minutes.
Which is good, coming off of fucking Genesis and Lana Del Rey, who are the most long-winded people of all time.
Lana's records were all pretty long.
These are all 45 minutes max.
Yeah, this record, 5x platinum in this country, and it's certified at least platinum in like 5 or 6 more countries. So you can assume pretty safely this one pays the bills for those guys to this day. Did really impressive business. And the band's irreverent sense of humor, I think, works best here, where it's not so immature that it just comes across as dumb like Cheshire Cat does sometimes. But it's still funny and a little bit irreverent. With my personal favorite lyric was, I said, "Don't let your future be destroyed by my past." She said, "Don't let my door hit your ass." And I was like, that's genuinely funny, because he's trying to set up like a deep, don't let your future be destroyed.
It sounds like something Ryan would say, and then the girl would say it to him. Yeah. And I'm like, oh. That sounds like sounds like something that would happen to Ryan, who appears on the channel every now and again.
Yeah. It's self-aware, that line. You know, it starts out trying to be something maybe a bit deep and all that stuff, and then it's just like, don't let my door hit your ass.
Fuck up. Get out of here.
Love that lyric, and I really like this album. This is pretty safe choice to have this at number 1, but I couldn't get away from it.
We can't all be hot take Stephen A. Smith like me out here with Take Off Your Pants and Jacket as the number 1.
So that's funny. I spoke too soon when we had the same bottom 4.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we're gonna have the same. No, and we ended up 4 spots apart in an 8-album discography.
Yeah, I mean, I knew the top 4, like I said, they're a total shuffle. They're all excellent records worth picking up and worth listening to. The bottom 4, not so much.
I really hope they don't do another one. God, 9 was just...
Please retire.
Just stop, guys. I mean,
please retire.
If you just go into production, go write a book, do something other than make pop punk.
They already have a legacy. There's no reason to tarnish it at all.
Exactly. They don't need the money.
No.
Like, this is a fucking 10x platinum, like almost a diamond certified record.
Unless you tell me Tom DeLonge is coming back, in which case maybe I will. Maybe I'll pick it up.
I'd go see him, but I bet you the record still wouldn't be good, because times have changed. Because even Tom on Angels and Airwaves is flexing artistically a bit and doing something a bit more ambitious and different. By the way, I Empire, Angels and Airwaves, I think is a great record.
Yeah.
From 2009, 10 maybe? I think that band, as I said before, is the sort of spiritual successor to early 2000s, late 90s Blink. So this was a fun, easy one. This will probably be a pretty short video. We've only been going like 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, it'll be quick. I mean, it's not that many songs. It's a relatively easy discography to take care of.
So I think now, Michael, I'm going to turn it around on you and say, I think it's your pick next.
It is my pick, and
what are you doing?
Thought about this a lot. I think we're going to stay in the punk sphere.
Okay.
but we're going to go back in time a little bit. We're going to go with Ramones.
Ah,
Ramones, a band that I find hilarious in so many ways and find so odd in so many ways, and I'm very intrigued by them.
okay. How many projects do you know?
I want to say around 8 or 9. They have more than you would think, honestly.
So did Blink. I was
Yeah,
like,
I
oh, they
know.
got 8 records? Really? Okay.
And with only one Ramone remaining, it makes me sad because
Yeah.
it's only Marky who is like halfway in the
I
Ramones.
almost picked up. There was a couple Ramones records up there at. I guess I shouldn't say where because it would reveal where you live.
Yes.
But we were shopping for music and there was a couple vinyl records by the Ramones. I thought about picking them up, but I'm not too familiar with them. I've never heard a Ramones record front to back. So
Yeah, they got the original one is obviously the most well known. I will have to listen to Blitzkrieg Bop again. It will hurt my soul quite a
Yeah.
bit because I hate that song. But the rest of Ramones stuff I really like. I mean, past Blitzkrieg Bop, I quite enjoy them and I find them hilarious.
Well, that'll be an interesting one.
Yeah.
I was worried. I guess I'm still worried that one of these days you're gonna like surprise me with something to punish me for Genesis.
Thing is, a lot of stuff I listen to, the discography is not all that daunting. Like it's not. There's not a lot of bands with like crazy discographies. Like I'm not a huge Rush fan, so I wasn't involved in that video.
That holds the record on the channel so far.
Yeah, no, I gotta find like one day we'll do the Bob Dylan Super episode.
I'll need about 2 months to prepare for that.
It'll take forever because there's nearly 40 records, but one day we'll do the Bob Dylan Super episode.
That's quite a studio career he's had.
Yeah.
His first record came out in 1962, and his most recent last year.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're waffling on now. That does it for blink-182 Worst to Best. I appreciate everybody watching. The channel is, I think we've got, since we started, 25 subscribers?
Well, that's good.
3,000 or 4,000 views. You know, the YouTube growth is slow and algorithmic, so the longer you do it, the more likely you are to have things blow up. But I'm not even worried about success on this. I just enjoy doing this with you.
Doing it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So a couple things coming up. I'm going to be doing Daft Punk Worst to Best with Logan, his first appearance on the channel. And I think I'm going to be doing a little special with a guy named Brandon, another friend of mine, on video game soundtracks and movie soundtracks.
Okay. If you don't have Hotline Miami on there, don't even show up.
Picking some top 5s in that. So stay tuned for that. And of course, the Ramones, almost said the Stooges, the Ramones Worst to Best, Mike's pick on the next episode we do together. So stay tuned for all that, and I appreciate you watching.